Stocks aren't the only favorable Apple investment instrument, and Bartender's new owners are losing credibility fast. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is brought to you by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter. Visit macvoices.com/newsletter today, sign up, and stay up to date. Webb posted this to our Slack, and so Webb, I'm going to let you talk just a little bit about it, but obviously we've all, well, if you're an Apple stockholder, you've been watching the ascent this week, the dramatic ascent. But Webb, this article pointed out that Apple bonds might be an equally good, if not better, option for you if you're interested in investing in the company.
Yeah, I don't want to come off as an expert on the subject. I know some things about it. The business that I'm in, of course, we play on the margin. So between what we invest in and what we can earn is the basis of the insurance industry. That being said, Apple has used the bond financing to do some things they talked about in the article, like how they repatriate income coming back into the United States. If they generate sales and generate revenue in Europe, if they bring that money into the United States, and becomes taxable in the United States. So one of the tax strategies is you keep those monies, that income, where it was generated, and then they use the bond financing, which is earning very well, using that to help pay for the stock purchases, the dividends, something like that. So it's an interesting tactic. A lot of companies do it. Apple's by no means the innovator in this space, but as a bond investment, it's been very lucrative, and they're very well regarded as an A+ carrier in the bond market itself. That's about all that I have to add about it. But it's whether they're managing their money.
Well, I guess, Webb, what surprised me, because I haven't really looked at the bond market for a long time, it is the fact that they're so competitive with, even right, at least in my area, short-term CDs. And these are much longer term, potentially, instruments if you're going to go that way. So I'm a little embarrassed that I hadn't thought about Apple bonds in a long time. But if you're an investor out there, take a look, and the article's in the show notes. Mark.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. So I saw that when I saw the article and it said, over 5%. I figured, this matches absolutely nothing that I'm familiar with. So I went to Apple's website and dug back to some of their, and I dug up their SEC filings where they offered a number of these bonds, and I think maybe the highest was offered at like 3.6%. But I think what has happened is this was issued before the Fed started to raise up interest rates. So
yep.
I suspect that what's happened in the bond market is that yields all fluctuate to go to whatever the predominant thing is, and that's in that 5.25, or whatever range. So the face value of the bond went down in order to provide that its payments would yield at that 5-point-something% interest rate. But also looking at it, they were not tremendously large amounts. I mean, for Apple's scale, I mean, I think the biggest was maybe $1.5 billion worth of bonds. So if they're generating 12-14%, 10 or 12 or $14 billion a quarter of profit, this is, I think, as you're alluding to, Webb, this is, I think, for financial convenience and in managing, their money and moving it efficiently and deploying it efficiently around the globe.
So the next story, I'm not quite sure how we want to approach it, or how you will approach it, as if I could control any of you. This is the Bartender story. The developer of Bartender sold a very beloved Bartender app to a company whose reason for being seems to be to buy up apps where developers don't have the bandwidth any longer to support them, and then I'm not going to say milk them, but maintain them anyway and suck up the money without really doing necessarily any innovation or being part of the community. And the fact that they were so non-transparent about this has led a lot of people to stop using Bartender. I think at least a number of people among the panel here, because Bartender is one of those apps that does have the ability to record your screen. So is this overstated? Is this a real security risk? And the company came out and they said a little something, but they really didn't say a whole lot. I don't know. I mean, I've stopped using Bartender because, and it's really annoying me that I can't use it any longer. Jeff, I know you and I had some discussions about this, both from the new developers' position, but also just from the community reaction.
Yeah, the new owners, I'm not going to call them developers because I feel like with the track record that the company has, that's being far too generous. Their modus operandi is they buy up the products from other companies, and then over time turn them into subscription services and find ways to just milk, as you said, milk them for as much revenue as they can before they fizzle out. And it was sad to see this happen with this product. We have a couple we have a laundry list of problems here. I hope you brought your popcorn and something to drink. No, I'll keep it short. First, the whole purchase happened without any transparency. When it was discovered by people when they realized that the developer certificate changed, and then they started doing some looking to see what was going on. Then it turns out that there's analytic tracking code that was added in. After the purchase happened, the owners of the company were refusing to identify who they were for the longest time. Then finally we get a statement from Ben on the website not our Ben, the original developer. And it was like just a short statement saying, yes, this is legit. I sold it to these people. They're going to be great. And no, they're not. But then salt in the wound, people ran the statement through generative AI checkers, and they kept saying this is AI generated. So then there was a whole question about whether or not the original developer even made this statement. And at this point, it doesn't matter if he did or didn't. The trust has been broken, and I don't think they will recover from this. And this is an app where losing that trust is devastating, because an app like Bartender, if abused, is a major privacy and security risk, because like you said, it can just record everything that's on your screen. So like you, I disabled Bartender and haven't used it since all of this started going down. I'm currently using ICE, which is an open source alternative available on GitHub. And it's fine. It doesn't do everything that I need it to, but it's fine. And I'm also having a problem where when I use it just on my built-in MacBook Pro screen, the 14-inch screen, it doesn't actually do anything. That's a big problem on a 14-inch screen. But the bottom line is, a trust has been broken here in a fundamental way. I do not see how they can recover from this. And I fear that people that are saying, oh, we heard from Ben, it's going to be fine, it's okay. I fear that these people are being myopic about just how serious of a situation this could be.
Marty.
Every time I read an article on this, it gets worse and worse. It's like pigs in mud. Nobody comes out of it clean when you look at the situation and read about the situation. It's almost like you do better right now if you just stop talking about it. I think people have a need to know what happened, but when they keep going back to the trough and offering more little tidbits, it just sounds worse and worse and worse with it. And the problem is it's a real issue, but what's made it worse is the way they have not used the press very well in getting the information out.
Ben?
Yeah, they
Ben,
needed I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Webb. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they needed a crisis manager like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Once this thing started going sideways and they didn't do it, they probably thought they could handle it themselves, and it's where they're at. So, and I'm a user. I'm a Bartender user. Have been. I just upgraded to Bartender 5, and I'm really disappointed.
Have you shut it off?
Have not. Doesn't mean that I won't, but I just haven't done it yet.
Okay. Ben, our Ben, not the other Ben, but
yeah. Though I also may be AI generated, an AI generated spokesman.
How many fingers do you have? That's the real Ben.
Okay, but look, the fact that they try to hide the purchase and possibly put anonymity into the purchase contract shows that this company knew exactly what would happen if they knew people owned them or they owned the app. Which means, yeah, they plan to strip mine this too.
Cletus in the chat room is asking if this was a bulk pack of apps. It was or was part of SetApp earlier this week. The last time I looked, it still was. I don't know if it is
still
or not.
There now.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. David.
Yeah, you just talk about SetApp. I'd be curious to know what SetApp's response is to this. Do they look at this stuff and will it stay on SetApp, as well as will this new owner continue with SetApp? So, I mean, that's how I've been using Bartender through SetApp, and this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, SetApp contracts, they're, I don't think they can just opt out. They have a time period unless there's some, malfeasance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jim, I definitely wanted to hear from you, though. I mean, I agree with that, but as a developer, I would think you have to have an opinion on the way this has been handled. And I don't want to demonize the seller, because the seller, look, he sold, he found a buyer, the price obviously was right, and so he sold it. But I mean, how do you feel about this? I would think that you would not want to see something you've spent all that time developing and building into a success just crash and burn this badly.
Well, I mean, he sold it, I guess. I was trying to find, I read that message from him a couple of weeks ago. I was trying to find it again now because it seemed legitimate to me, which doesn't necessarily, I mean, his assurance doesn't really, so what? He doesn't have any say in it anymore. I don't know anything about this applause group, so I guess the concerning thing is that you have to give this certain permissions for it to work. But it is interesting to me how everybody's jumping on it. Also, it's like, well, then you better not use a replacement either from some other unknown smaller company. Sounds like you better not, just leave your menu bar alone. Because I don't see why you would trust if, some new person came up with a similar software, it would have the same, potential for problem. For me personally, I'm using an older version of the OS, so I'm running an older version of Bartender. The newest version won't run on my machine. So for now, I figure, I'm still using, the one from the old company. So I'm not too worried about that at the moment. And, there hasn't been that I've seen any particular, like anybody's identified, oh, well, they've changed the software in some way that it's going to do something malicious. Maybe they will, certainly, probably going to be difficult to do now with, people keeping their eye on it. But for now, I assume it's exactly the same software it was before.
It wasn't the same software as it was before, because the company did add tracking code in and released that as an update. And then after enough smoke filled the room from that,
they removed that.
They removed that code.
Well, and notice that got found right away. I mean, people have got little snitch and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So,
it's the silence that is the worst part. It's the lack of communication, the lack of transparency for an app that, in order to run, says we want to record your screen. That to me is where it boils down to. And up to this point, the previous developer, I want to be careful how I say this, is and was a respected member of the community. And the fact that he sold it was he didn't do anything wrong. It's just that now we're dealing with someone who has been who, if you're still using it, has been given access to your screen that is not real clear on who they are and what they might be doing, what they want to do with it. That's the disturbing part. Mark, you said you have a comment to wrap up the segment, so you got it, because I know you're also pushing time.
Okay, yeah. So when I was reading this story, I saw it when it first came out. I guess it blew up, I don't know, a week, 10 days ago. And then when I started to read some of the detailed follow-ups that were posted, it just seemed that this company just got scummier and scummier, and just not deserving of any trust at all. And that's what sort of led me to create this background image of just some nameless, guilty people who should be prosecuted and tossed in jail.
Oh, so that's where it came from. Okay. All right.
There's no other prominent court cases recently.
Careful, Jim. Careful.
That's on all sides, right?
Well, yeah, isn't that the truth? Yeah. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.